What is up, the YouTube and the Steam blockchain? So today I want to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, time travel, virtual reality, and role play. So I read this interesting post on Reddit that was kind of fun. It's like, someone was suggesting the idea of that maybe Bitcoin was supposed to be for 2030 and 2040, but then they sort of saw that basically the theory in this Reddit post was that banks with the print system, they basically made it so bad that it was actually supposed to go longer. And then some guy realized in a future timeline that they have to go back and release Bitcoin right now instead of 2030 and 2040. Fun idea. it's fun idea. This idea that it would kind of make it a little bit Game of Thrones like, or with more of a sci-fi feel. So I want to talk a little bit about this. So first we have the time travel idea, and then we have Bitcoin, interesting technology, scarcity. We have the virtual reality sort of. This sort of is, you could say, in many ways, technology already right now is virtual reality. It's a virtual sort of world, okay? And then we have the role play aspect. And I wanted to bring these four sections and try to mesh them into one video, because I think they're sort of they are all playing, or what it's kind of interesting to mix them all together and talk a little bit about it. So first of all, Bitcoin seems like it's going to play a pretty big role. It seems like it's going to play a big role, mainly because of the brand, and that you can divide it into one Bitcoin. You can split it up into Satoshis, 100 million units. So it seems like Bitcoin is going to play a pretty large role in the future. Then we do have the time travel aspect. So if you ask me personally, I would say that first, that humans sort of that time versus, from what I understood from what I've been looking at, time is basically, it's the body that basically keeps time. So the body knows, for example, it needs to keep track of time, when to eat, when to sleep, and all of this. But actually, if there was no body, it would, if you just look at it from a consciousness perspective, then each or the so-called right now, which there is always is the now. You can never be in something that's not the now. So, but then if you really look at it from just a consciousness perspective, then the now that is always would basically be eternity. So the idea then of travel through time, go back and forth and change things, it's, if you ask me, it's very science fiction, and but how it actually would be able to work is that if someone can perceive life deeper, they can basically see more data faster. They can, well, if they are paying attention more, they can basically get a lot of data much quicker than a person that is not being so attentive. So if a person is using their intelligence in a more efficient way, then they can sort of they get intelligence faster, and in a way can look at it from a very basic perspective. It can look like they're time traveling if they have a lot of intelligence, if they have pierced through life in a deeper way, be able to perceive, okay, they're looking at something right now, and they are observing it, and they can sort of see what its future is going to be like. In a way, you can say that that is like time travel. From a very basic perspective, or someone would say, whoa, that looks like magic. You can look at the stone and you can see from a very basic perspective, okay, oh, you can see that this stone, if you're observing it very deeply, maybe you can see how long it's going to be there, even though that might sound super weird. But people are already sort of doing this. I mean, they're looking at how old a tree is, and they can probably look at the tree and sort of know how long it's going to last, because it's basically, if you're looking at it from a scientific perspective, everything here is geometry. So if a person is very skillful with geometry, they can, and if it all is based on math, they can basically look at something and see how, if they perceive, they can basically see how long it's going to last. And you can say that that is like time travel. I mean, from a very basic perspective, it looks like, oh my god, you can you understand something that I don't, right? So if you imagine, let's say someone made a super advanced computer program that basically is so intelligent that it can, I mean, it is using computing power, maybe it can see where things are heading, because it's so intelligent in its computing ability. So maybe it would see, well, if you're just looking at the numbers, Bitcoin needs to be earlier and not later, because if it happens later, the computer says something. So in some way, the computer makes it so it happens faster. Who knows? But it's fun to speculate on a lot of stuff, because if a human truly looks at stuff, if they are honest with themselves, then they can see that we don't even know a single atom in its entirety in this existence. So, you know, so sorry. So there you have that thing, the sort of the time travel aspect. But when humans really are looking at things, they can, and when they dive deeper a little bit about, you know, what is time, then you can see that most really smart people are saying, well, past, present, future, it's all in the same, right? It all happens same time. But a human basically needs discernment. They need to be able to know what is imagination, what is future, and what is now. That might sound super confusing, because there's this thing, I mean, when you're using a language, even a language has its limitations, because people first make up their own meanings. They're hearing some sound from a person. So a lot of stuff in life needs to be it basically needs to be an experience for a person, or else it's just a story, right? So you see, for example, if you look at YouTube right now, there is a lot of people that have realized that they can have a lot of fun with, oh, this is a time traveler or time traveler. He comes from the future. He knows something. And then people realize you can make fun videos like that. And in some ways, humans are then expanding their borders of ignorance, where they are realizing, there's a lot of stuff you can sort of make fun of, and at the same time as they're having fun, they can sort of see that, well, if you're actually looking at things in life, if you're really taking a close look at stuff, a lot of systems and stuff like that, if you're really observing them, you can kind of see what is going to last and what is not going to last. So just by looking at stuff in life, you can you can see, like you can see, for example, you can see systems that humans have basically built, and you can see the fragile structure of them. It's not really based in geometry. So, and then people may even do these videos where they are saying, where they're sort of joking in some ways, maybe like, oh my god, this is gonna happen in the future. And then they may be right, because they actually used their eyes. So maybe they didn't plan on it maybe they just wanted to do a practical joke or something like that. But then they realized that, oh my god, people are actually seeing that, wow, you can actually look at life and you can sort of do these videos. And if you're really looking at things, you can be pretty accurate. And this is something that people are starting to see right now. For example, when people are talking about a lot of price stuff, they've realized in many ways that, wait a sec, in many ways we can just look at the geometry and we can sort of predict how things are going to be in the future. Or how not like how a life may be, but how certain geometric systems will play out. So Bitcoin and the time travel. You can really dive deeper into both those two topics. The interesting part about Bitcoin is that the more you dive deeper into it, the more you realize how genius it is. And it looks like, wait a sec, why didn't humans, or why are they not diving deeper into this? Because it looks pretty smart. Yeah. It's mainly that humans need to, I think, and this is not financial advice, but, they're still in a moment of always expanding the borders of ignorance, and they always sort of realize, well, we don't really know that much. We don't really know what money is in some ways. I mean, it's like wait a sec, isn't money just a sort of like a belief system? That's kind of weird. But yeah, people are going to look deeper into things, or they're going to dive deeper into maybe themselves, in their own mind or their own soul or whatever. And I don't know, starting to think for themselves, which is kind of interesting. What was the other two things? Oh yeah, virtual reality and role play. Well, where I sort of think a lot of stuff is going towards is, well, take this story with Bitcoin and time travel. You can dive deeper into it if you search for it on Google, because there wasn't just one post, there was many posts. And I mean, fiction or whatever. I mean, people interpret things in whatever way they want, but we sort of see that there may be a huge market for role play in the future. And yeah, you could say that this is all already sort of here, with people being their own TV show. People can do their own media, Instagram, videos, all of this. But it seems like it's really going to be taken to the next level, where people can, when people really discover that, wow, we can make up stories, we can entertain. This is something that, I mean, entertainment has existed for a very, very long time. But now it's just going to be that, well, anyone can sort of create various so-called role-play scenarios. Role-plays as in, it's just in life where humans are role-playing in their daily life. They look at themselves as a role, and they sort of acting it out, and now it's going to be more of that also in the virtual world, where I think it sort of started the internet in many ways, where humans thought that, well, I have to do, or I have to be, or I have to try to show what I am in the real world. But then I think eventually it's going to go towards a phase where people are going to realize, well, it's like, you can almost make up anything and get an audience, or you can build up characters, you can build up caricatures, and you can sort of experiment with that. You can create a lot of polls. You can sort of see, you can see what people are interested in. You can, yeah, as I talked about in the past, it's like the internet is sort of becoming this big place of virtual reality where people sort of can run all kinds of experiments. And it's not like this was not something that happened. This is always, of course, has happened, but just slower. But now it's really going to speed up. Really. And then we're probably going to see way more roleplay, way more virtual reality. And you sort of start to think about this. The entertainment industry, of course, it's really interesting when everything is like, you know, global and everything, when everyone sort of can consume the same sort of stuff. It's probably going to make people just consider stuff more, what they try to produce, and yeah. But the roleplay aspect is really interesting, because, well, when humans can be like, my friend talked a little bit about this, but in a way humans are sort of, they can be like the Sims characters. And I mean, we see this, for example, with emojis, and we see emojis, GIFs on the rise, but we see that even they're coming out better software where you can make yourself into a virtual character. And then we get into all kinds of interesting discussions of, if my virtual character is earning virtual value, is that me earning, or is that my virtual character that is earning, and am I that virtual character? Is the virtual character supposed to pay tax on his virtual money that he did in the virtual world? It gets into this very interesting weird space in many ways, when you have these roles, you have a virtual world where people can create so much stuff, and people interpret things in various ways. You have different languages. You have, yeah, just the visual experience is kind of interesting. How there's so much, there is really so much unexplored stuff in I think in role play, with especially in the video category, especially when clickbait basically won't be needed, because people can earn the value, basically be themselves, or basically create something from nothing, and if it gets an audience, they're sort of going to reward that. And even if it's a small audience, it doesn't really matter, because they can send over some value, right? Yeah, it is very it's very interesting. And I probably want to do more videos on these topics, because they kind of are amusing. And I mean, yeah, it's very interesting, because social media, the point of it was you have your own page and you write about your own stuff. But how it's going to evolve into is, well, you're going to create entertainment for, or you're going to create something that it doesn't really have to be attached to you as a person. I mean, it can be some role play thing, but it's really nuanced space. And I do understand that people probably are a bit, I do see why people are probably holding back when they see a lot of tech and they see how things are looking at, and it can be very quick, easy to judge and see, well, this technology is moving too fast, but I think eventually it's going to be quite good. If we go with the basis that most humans are sort of, I don't know, good. Yeah, but I want to talk just a little bit brief on these things. And it's very interesting because, well, humans in many ways, many people have been quite, let's say, comfortable in their ignorance, but eventually they're gonna realize that they probably do not know so much, and then it's gonna be more of a, I think life is gonna then more be about keep exploring, keep expanding the borders of their ignorance. Always gonna be ignorant because there's so much to learn, but they're gonna move from a state of being like thinking that they know a lot to realize that they don't really know that much. But the I don't know place is a pretty good place to be, because then a person's intelligence will basically start to work again. Yeah, I just wanted to a little bit go over some things I've been thinking about, but well, thanks for watching. Have an awesome day, DTube and the Steam blockchain. Bye bye.